Thank you very much, Charlotte, for your invitation to talk about the ancient coinages of the Iberian Peninsula. My purpose is to give an overview about more or less 5 centuries of coinages in a few minutes, but I hope that it will be quite understanding and you will know how this process of coinages will develop. First of all, the Iberian Peninsula is located in the far west and of the Mediterranean, so it means that it's far from the main centers that promoted the main social and political developments during the first millennium BC. Nevertheless, it didn't remain on the sidelines of the Mediterranean, of the advances, because the presence of sailors and traders, first for the Phoenicians, and then the Greeks on the north. The Iberian Peninsula is a territory inhabited by very different peoples with different levels of social, political, and economical background, and it depends on whether they are located on the coast or they are inland, because the innovations go always from the coast to the inland. Coins minted in the Iberian Peninsula are from the late 6th century until the reign of the Emperor Claudius I. Although not all mints struck at the same time, but the use spread gradually over time and space. The first coinages of the Iberian Peninsula were minted in the Phocian colony of Emporion towards the end of the 6th century BC, following a model of minting similar to the one developed in Massalia, another Phocian colony in southern France. The weight standard, as you can see, is Phocian. At the beginning, Emporion struck heavier denominations than Massalia, which is quite amazing, we can say, because we find in Emporion octobols, drachmi, tetrobols, even hemidrangs, and most of these denominations are absent in Massalia. So Emporion struck a complete range of denominations. Here are 2 examples of these archaic coinages with the forepart of the Pegasus and a ram head, and on the other. And these are another example. It's a ram head on the obverse and a incused square with 6 rectangles, and is not we can say, habitual or normal, this kind of reverse. And I show another one. Archaic is probably is a eagle's head, and on the reverse, a square. You can see the incused square with 4 tabs here, and we can see in the next slide that this kind of reverse have a dotted cross. This kind of reverse. If the first coinages during the late 6th and beginning of the 5th century are quite heavy, during the 5th century and until the 3rd century, important coinages were characterized by their reduced weight, most of them weighing less than 1 gram. You can see here, half gram, 0.33, 0.74, 0.85, 0.73 grams. Sorry. And in addition, you can see the ram head, the jack and eye, 3 front head. It's quite amazing, also quite rare. The goat, the Apollon, Gorgon, a female head that is copying Syracusan portraits, and the griffon. So, in addition to the low weight, we can say another characteristic is the diversity of types, following a model similar to the one developed in Massalia and even in the Asia Minor. I can show you this coin. Is a lovely coin. It's a fraction. It's half a gram, 9 millimeters, but you can see that it's copying the head of Cimon on the Syracusan decadrans, with a net on the hair. In this, you can see these circles are part of this net that they maintain the hair. And the reverse is a copy of the Thurian coinages. So the types are very diverse and are copying from all the Mediterranean images. From this fractional character and its, we can say, dispersion, it can be deduced that these coinages had a wide base of users, even Greeks, but also natives. You can see Greeks are in this area, the colonies, Rhodes and Emporion, but you can see that the coins have a dispersion along the coast on hordes, the 4th century hordes. And due to the reduced value, a large segment of population had access to them. Toward the 4th century BC, to the end, the Greek colony of Rhodes, located more or less 18 kilometers north of Emporion, initiated the minting of drachmas with an average weight of 4.74, modifying the fractional monetary model used until then, that are, as we can see, we have seen fractions weighing less than 1 gram. Rhodes was, in addition, one of the first cities of the Iberian Peninsula to mint bronze coins with a pattern of 4.12 grams. Many of them were overstruck on bronze coinages of Punic Sardinia. From Rhodes, one characteristic is the strange view of the rose. Is seen from behind, like you can see this image. Is not from in profile, not from above, but from behind mainly. This is quite strange. Shortly after Rhodes initiated the minting of drachmas, the colony of Emporion also struck them. They also struck drachmas and abandoned the fractional model used until then. Types that were chosen for the first Emporion drachmas were the female head with the corn ears on the hair, and that we have seen in Rhodes, and the reverse show a Nike crowning or a horse, and the use of the horse is thought or is related to the Carthaginians. They think that these coinages were promoted by the Carthaginians to recruit mercenaries in Gaul, because in Gaul is where these coinages were largely imitated. But in later issues, Emporion showed a greater Syracusan influence, with a female head adorned even with the wheat, the corn of wheat in the hair, and surrounded by 3 dolphins. And on the reverse, the Pegasus, that links with the coinages not directly with Corinth, but with Syracuse. And the legend Emporiton, like is the normal legend in plural and coin of the Emporitans. This typological change has related by the backwards movement of the Carthaginians, or even with the defeat of the Carthaginians in the First Punic War. As research progresses, it has become more evident every day that silver bullion by weight was used in small value transactions in some parts of the Iberian Peninsula. Every day, the findings of silver fragments or ingots like this, La Bastida de les Alcuses, for example, these are ingots, small ingots, but we find also ingots in Pontos and Girona and Puig d'Alcoi. All these archaeological sites are dated during the 5th and 4th century BC. The evidence that allow us to believe in the existence of the use of the silver by weight are findings of silver ingots from not just these archaeological sites, but also from hoards of the 4th century. You can see that the main part of the hoards are represented by the objects in the bullion, and the coins are a very, very small percentage of this hoard. And Pont de Molins, in this case, the 98% are objects, are bullion, and only 2% are coins. So it's clear that bullion has an important, we can say, paper role in at this moment. And as far as the instruments for weighing is concerned, the pondera also and the scale pan are well known. In some of them go back to the 4th century BC. Nevertheless, the bullion still are active, still are used, or has an important role during the Second Punic War. During the Second Punic War, there are more silver as bullion and broken objects or cut objects than coins. The difference is overwhelming. This is Armuña hoard. This Armuña hoard has less than 200 grams of coins and more than 6 kilograms of bullion. This is just a small, we can say, part of this hoard. The introduction of coinage between the Iberians, because until now we have seen just the Greek coinages struck in the colonies, the introduction of coinage between the Iberians was a delayed, slow, and territorially unequal process. The Iberian world knew coinage in early part of the 5th and 4th centuries because coins arrived. These coins that you are on the screen are found in the Iberian Peninsula, and you can see that are cut. They are used as bullion, in fact. And these coins come from the contacts with sailors and traders, and with are probably come to the Iberian Peninsula with the Iberian mercenaries that fought, and the wars between Greeks and Carthaginians, at least from 480. The first Iberian issues were struck in the city of Arce Saguntum, presumably in the second half of the 4th century BC, in accordance with their development of their political organization. These are the first coinages of Arce that are using the wheel, and sometimes the first one has a very close resemblance with the Tarent, and the other has the name of this is in Iberian. The legends say Arcesken. Arcesken is in Iberian the same case as Syracosion or Emporiton. It means it's a genitive plural. In Iberian means coin, we can understand coin, of the inhabitants of Arce, from Arcetans. So these coinages in Arce must be linked with a process of regulations of the civic relations. And also, these coinages didn't more than begin to formalize the use of silver bullion by weight. But this was a unique advancement in Spain because the beginning of the native issues and an effective monetization only began in late 3rd century during the Second Punic War. Well, the designs of these first coinages of Arce and the artistic style are framed within the Greek Hellenistic cultural atmosphere and show typological ties with the cities of Massalia, Magna Greece, and Sicily, areas with which Arce Saguntum maintained trade contacts. This is, Neapolis, but this to the left, this is a drawing of Arce that are using the same, the Aqueloo or the river god in this case. And this is another from Arce with the same, they are copying the Nike crowning this, the bull, the man face bull in this case. Well, what about the Phenopunic people in Iberia? Because there are colonies in the south of the Iberian Peninsula. Well, the Phenopunic people, instead of using silver fractions for their routinely low-level exchanges, they express an initial preference for bronze as in the busus. This is a teeny coin, it's a small coin, 1.2 grams, and it's the 4th century. This is the god Bes in overs and reverse. And in Gadir, there is also bronze, and it is surprising that Phenopunic communities of Ebusus and the cities of the south hadn't developed initially important silver issues. It's different from the Greek world that started even with small fractions, but always in silver. The Phenopunic cities probably use mainly bronze from the beginning due to the political and economic maturity, probably, of the society, and to the fact that these issues were intended for modest transactions in our local context. I mean, they struck them to use in a local, you can say, local market, the busus inside the island, and Gadir in the area that they control, what is called the strait, the circle of the strait in the south. The natural evolution of the native societies towards the monetization with the presence of the Carthaginians and the development of the Second Punic War. This is what accelerated the monetization of the Iberian Peninsula. The coin hoards of this period provide very wide, large information on the type of coinages used to finance the war and the area of their circulation, mainly coastal. Carthaginians covered their military expenses during the Second Punic War largely with metals mined in Iberia, in the peninsula. The silver coinages, whose unit was the shekel, was struck following a weight standard of 7.20 grams. This is an exceptional coin. This is a 3 shekels. It is 22 grams. And also, Carthaginians struck electrum and also bronze. So Carthaginians had a very complete set of coinages, and in addition, they are a wide range of denominations in silver and also in bronze. Well, these are obviously the normal types that Carthaginians use, because the designs of the Carthaginians fit well within the Hellenistic pattern of coinages and its cultural atmosphere. They are varied. They use male head. This is a Hellenistic with the diadem. They are, well, it seems we can say a ruler, a Hellenistic ruler with this, like we can say in Sicily, or in the reverse there are the pro. You can see 3 shields. Each shield means 1 shekel. This is and in others there are 2 shields, 2 shekels, 1 shield, 1 shekel. And also in this, we can say designs, Hellenistic designs, while of course the elephant is one of the weapons, the classical weapons of the Carthaginians. There is a quite large range of issues with the elephant, but then there is another. This is a Heracles, but with crown, with wreath, and this is, of course, the clava, is the mace. So it's also, they probably are using the equivoque. I don't know if in English it's equivoque, figures they are not the name of the Aníbal, Asdrubal, or Amilcar, but they probably are intending to portray their heads or their persons. This is the Carthaginian side, but what about the Roman side? The Romans financed the military expenses with a more varied source of currencies. Unlike the Carthaginians, the Romans mainly used local mints and designs. Most of the payments were made with drachmas from Emporion with the Pegasus type, but with the head of the Pegasus transformed on, you can see, is a man that are handed to the foot. It's a license. We are not an explanation for the meaning of this, but only coins that were struck during the Second Punic War use this transformation of the head. In addition to this, there are other coinages that probably are related with the Second Punic War. One of them are the Iberian imitation. This is an Iberian imitation of the Emporitan drachma. You can see that the style is very crude. Is the legend is not in Greek, it's Iberian. And these imitations were minted in a military context because we found them in hoards of the period of the Second Punic War. And it's possible that these were struck with the intention of meeting some war expenses of the Roman side, of course. Other coinages that appears at this moment during the Second Punic War are, and we found in hoards, are the Aracroix coins from Gaul, the Ebusitan emidranks or dranks, the Gadir, you know, Gadir is an important center for garum and all the tuna derivatives, all this. And this is because the type of the Gadir is the tuna. And the other is from Saitavi, is 45 kilometers from Valencia. And this is the Hercules or Heracles, and the eagle, probably of the victory, but this eagle is copying the martial gold, the Roman martial gold, the eagle and that appears in the 60 asses, 40 and 20. The financing of the war contributed in a decisive way to the familiarization by the indigenous population with coinage. There is the army going in one part of the peninsula to the other, fighting mercenaries asking for money. This passed to the population. So there were a huge quantity of money in circulation, and silver, bullion silver. Nevertheless, coins didn't extend through the whole territory uniformly, since the findings of hoards like these are the hoards of the Second Punic War, the hoards indicate that the circulation are concentrated in the coastal strip. After the defeat of the Carthaginians, the Roman decided to stay in the peninsula and divided in two provinces. This was a sign of the intention to exploit the Iberian resources. The monetization of the Iberian War, the presence of the Romans had important consequences in the life of the Iberian Peninsula. Favored contacts between peoples, integrated Spain in a larger economy, encouraged urban organization, and accelerated monetization. What are the metals that Spanish coinages struck? There were ulterior and citerior, two provinces, but mainly are copper and lead, and copper, lead, and tin. Most of them are the ternary alloy, but there are a part that use only copper, pure copper, and copper and lead, and the rest are always ternary alloy. What are the denominations? Well, denominations are very difficult to establish because you can see these are the range of weights of the units of the Iberian coins. It's difficult. At the beginning are heavier than later, but at the end they normally struck coins between 9 and 13. That it means that was the equivalent of the semis, the Roman semis. Also struck silver. Silver was a very, very important coinages in Spain because are the, we can say, famous Iberian denarii. This is an example. In general, the quality is quite good. Nevertheless, it depends. In some periods, the fineness are below 90%. But in general, we can say the denarii are quite good. Where the denarii were struck only in the Interior province, not in the south. It means that the Romans had norms or had rules about coinages. They allowed to the interior to strike and not to the ulterior. So the south even many silver mines were in the south, they didn't struck coinages. Now, coinages are related with the urban development. These are the means, we know the location, and in this case, you can see that these coinages are the most important, are related to mines, rich agricultural territories, or ports, harbors. So it's a phenomenon, the monetization linked to the urban societies. In case of the silver, some coinages can be related to local purposes, but the main coinages, silver coinages, are in the interior. We can see the place where they were struck, and this denarii, it all seems similar, but they are with different legends. The Iberian coinages were circulated without any type of restriction, and we can see that coins from the most important cities are very spread, has a very large diffusion. The types, as you can see, are Hellenistic and designs has no Roman influences. It means that at this moment Rome has not a standardized cultural symbols that could be used by the Iberian or the Punic societies. So no Roman connections of designs. Another question that points, or that they stress, we can say, the differences and the autonomy of the peninsular populations was the script. We have Greek in the north, Punic in the south, but then we have three different Paleo-Hispanic scripts: the Iberian, the Meridional Iberian, and the Tartessian. So three different. So there are at least, and in addition there is Latin, but the use of Latin is a use that doesn't demonstrate that the population knew Latin. It means that was a specific package of Latin use, mainly for place names and sometimes some personal names. But we can define this like a coinage literacy. It only use Latin for some specific fields. The legal promotions at the end of the first century the legal promotions of the cities resulted in a new monetary model and a new, we can say, a new perspective of the life in the Iberian Peninsula. Then legal promotion had important consequences and affected many fields. One of them, the urbanism, but also coinage, because the new situation, the legal changes granted to the cities meant that the coinages had another appearance. They, from Augustus on, coins showed mainly on the overs the portrait of the emperor and, to a lesser extent, members of his family, contributing to make the imperial portrait one of the most characteristic symbols of the contemporary coinage. It's the portrait of the emperor portrait is what changed the configurations of the coins. The promoted cities were municipium, were native promotions, or colonies if were foreign population settled in several or in different places. Municipalities, some of them use the same types. Left, you can see a coin from Untikesken, and to the right, a coin of the municipium of Emporia. Use the same. And in the case of Bolskan, this is the native coin, and this is the URSS, the promoted Osca, the city that use the same, the horseman on the reverse. But the colonies are different. The signs, the Roman symbolism are more stressed, more evident. Their types alluded to the origin of settled population. You can see here in the left, Casa Augusta, the signa, the aquila and signa, and the merita, the representation of the sulcus primigenius with the priest and the yoke, and to the right, the Roman temple. Is a Roman temple, nothing similar in the native populations. One of the most important things during this period of promoted cities was the disappearance, and the provincial coinages are the disappearance of the pre-Latin, the Paleo-Hispanic languages and scripts. Now all is Latin. The native languages and script disappear from the official documents. This is a pedestal of Augustus from Saguntum. This disappearance of the indigenous script are evident on the coins. And we can see in this that the new coins have more information than the previous coinages. The appearance of the portrait of the emperor needs a legend to identify the portrait, but this means that the reverse is the place where the cities could put local information. In this case, you can see that the name of the city is on the reverse, Caesar Augusta. They put also the legal status, colony, and the magistrates, Liciniano et Germano, and the magistracy, Duumvir. This is what, more or less, this is the appearance of the Roman provincial coinages of this period. What is the role of the Roman provincial coinages? Well, they struck very low value coinages, mainly as and semis. This is the number of dice. But not just these are the most struck denominations, but in most cities, the provincial coinages accounted for the 85% of all coins in circulation, the bronze. So the Roman provincial coinage, the bronze, had a very important paper, a very important role in this circulation. Well, the Roman provincial coinages ceased during the Emperor Claudius I. There is no clear why they ceased or they stopped strike coins in Spain, but this phenomenon must be viewed from a wider perspective that includes the Western Mediterranean or Western part of the empire, which was immersed in a trend toward the unifications of the Roman monetary system. At the end of this, during Tiberius, Caligula, and Claudius, many mints of Africa, Italy, France, they stopped striking, and Spain was the last. And from this period on, from the reign of Claudius I, one of the most important public symbols of the cities in Spain, in Hispania, Iberia, disappeared, and thereby concluding 500 years of civic coinages. Henceforth, all the coinages used in Spain came from imperial mints. And thank you very much. This is all. You can see what I'm been talking, you can find in a digital paper. It's called Dodia, published by the museum, and this is here if you wish or you are interested. Thank you very much.